everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. We're still going at our 1976 Dodge D100 pickup. Let's see what we got to do today. So here's what we're up against today. After all my battles with radiators, this one now has started leaking. It's got a leak in the top of the core here underneath this tank. So I threw in the towel and bought a new one. Here it is here in a box. It's a Spectra. They're decent enough radiators. And this one is actually the correct one for the slant 6. So it has the upper rad hose on this side like it's supposed to have. So we got the right hose, right? So we'll be able to have the right hose on it. And also this time, while I've got the radiator out, just because we're going to put a timing chain in it. Because the engine is kind of an unknown quantity to us, like it runs good and everything, but you don't know how many miles are on it. You don't know what's ever been done to it. A timing chain is cheap insurance. It was $27 for a complete Cloy's timing set. It's not a fancy double roller or anything. Good heavens, it's really... But it's got, you know, steel gears. It's a decent quality thing. So we'll get that in there and we should be good. And while I'm at it, I'm going to change the belts. I've already changed the belts once when I first got the truck, but these seem to be like they're cheap. They're springy, they're bouncy, they're stretchy. So we're going to put those Gates one on it and see if that helps anything. Let's get started. First step is to drain the coolant, and we're dumping it into a nice clean bucket because this stuff is new. It'll be going right back in. While it drains, we can get the belts off. And then we'll, I guess I'll match them up to the new ones just to be sure. So that was easy. Oh, let me put the flash on. There we go. So that was easy. These things are pretty simple to work on. That's why people like them. We've got the radiator, the fan, the belts, the water pump pulley, all out of the road. Next, we're going to get we can start working on the timing chain. You can see how easy it is. There's the timing cover right there. So we have to pull out you can see the pulley's got 3 grooves. So the third groove there, the outer one, that's the power steering. That's the power steering pulley. It's just held on with those 3 bolts. So we'll get that out of the way. And then we could take the big bolt out of the middle, get our puller, pull the balancer off. Then we've got an easy shot to get in there and get the timing chain done. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pop the grill out of it. It's just held in with a few screws. And we're going to weld some captive nuts on the rad support for the radiator, so we're not constantly having to reach down there and deal with nuts, because this radiator is not native to this rad support. It's kind of mix and match. So I want it to be, you know, a little more easy to work on. Well, it sure is a lot easier with the grill out. I've gone ahead and barred the engine over. So it's at top dead center on number 1. That will should have a timing chain lined up. And I'm going to show you how you can check the timing chain without taking the engine apart. This one really isn't all that bad. So what you do, you can just get a bar on there. And if you're really careful, you can feel the slop. There it is there. That's the slop in our chain. Just a couple of degrees of crank rotation, which isn't really all that bad. But we're in here anyway, and I don't know if it's one with a plastic cam gear. I don't know anything. So I want to get in there, see what it is, and swap it out. So right now we're going to get that great big bolt out of the crankshaft with the old impact gun, and then we'll draw the pulley off, and we'll be in there in no time. We're using our pulley here to draw the balancer off. The engine did turn a bit by the time we got it broke free, but no problem. We'll just turn it back. There, she's off. Now we just need to get the timing cover off. There's 4 bolts up through the front rail of the oil pan and a few bolts around the edge of it here. Wouldn't you know, we found a bolt that goes into water. Good thing the drain pan was still under it. There's probably a bunch of it going into the oil pan too. That's all right. We'll give it an oil change when we're done. Yep, and there we are. Look at that. It's got the old plastic gear timing chain on it. And, you know, you can see it's got a little slop. So we'll put new stuff on. And it'll be just fine. You can see the timing marks are lined up. There's one right there, a little dot. And there's a little pointer on the cam gear. So we can get this stuff out of here. And we'll get all our surfaces cleaned up. And we'll be ready to put the new chain on. We took the center bolt out of the camshaft. And these gears usually just come right off. There we go. Now we'll see about getting the crankshaft gear off. Sometimes they come off easy. Sometimes they need just a little bit of prying. Sometimes they need a lot of prying or even a puller. Well, that one was on there pretty good, but no problem. We just grab a puller and off it comes. Now with the old chain and sprockets out of the way, I'm going to take a few minutes and get all this old gasket and everything all cleaned up. I've stuck a rag in here so that bits and pieces don't all go raining down into the oil pan. We don't want that. Okay, once we got the gasket surface all cleaned up, we can go ahead and start assembling our timing set. Now we've got that on and bottomed out. We turn the crankshaft so that the tooth that the timing mark is on is pointing as close at the center of the camshaft as we can get it. And that's pretty darn close. So now we're going to go grab the cam sprocket and the chain and see if we've got it right on. And there you can see we've got it spot on. The 2 marks line up and intersect the center of the camshaft. Now I got to look in the book and see what we're supposed to torque that bolt to. It's a 7/16 coarse thread bolt. The book says torque it to 50 foot-pounds, so that's what we did. Now we got to get the cover ready. We're going to push a new seal into this thing. So we'll go over and find a, I think I want to push it out from the inside. So we'll find something that fits around here nicely and push the seal out. And then we'll put the new one in from the back. The old seal's pushed out, and here's our new seal. And we can see it is not a coated seal. So we're going to put a little Permatex 2 around in the bore. And then we'll push the seal in from the back like that. And then you push it, you just push on the seal with something that's a little bit bigger than it. And when it touches here on the cover, you're done. It may stick out the front a tiny bit, but that's fine. The thing we're pushing with isn't quite as big as I hoped it would be. So it's not going to stop when it touches the cover. We're just going to have to eyeball it. Right there. That's it. Home. Our gasket had a little bit of a curve to it. It was kind of bent in half. So we softened it up in a bucket of water just for a second. And I got it sitting here with a block of wood and the harmonic balancer on it, straightening it out. An interesting note on the harmonic balancer. The Slant 6, the harmonic balancer usually on them was only a single groove. They were always like that. Once these trucks, the 1981 and up trucks started seeing them, the automatic trucks had the old single groove pulley like this, And if you wanted air conditioning, there was a tin pulley like this bolted to the back of it. And for power steering, there was another tin pulley, this one, bolted to the front of it. On a truck with an 833 overdrive transmission with a 10-inch clutch, you got this, a 2-groove cast iron harmonic balancer. That is not a bolt-on air conditioning pulley. That is part of the balancer. It's a big, heavy old thing, see? And then the steering pulley still bolted on. If you had a truck with a slant 6 and a 435 transmission, you got the heavy-duty industrial harmonic balancer, which was a cast iron one with all 3 grooves built right into it. It was a big, heavy, thick one like that. That thing is a monster. Anyway, we've got the 2-groove one. I don't think it really matters. I'm quite sure lots of guys had gone to the junkyard and gotten single-groove slant 6 motors and stuck them in their old trucks and not had a problem, you know. But anyway, this is the one we've got. So it's the rubber is starting to swell out of it a little bit, but it's not that bad, especially given the thickness of it. The thin slant 6 balancers, yeah, when the rubber starts spewing out of them, you got to start watching them because the outer ring will start moving around. But this thing here, you can see it's got an 1.5 inches of rubber in there, and the back side of it is still fine. So we're just going to roll with this one for now. And I will keep my eyes out down the road for one of these. You can actually send them out and have them redone. There's a couple of places. I think one is called Damper Doctor, and the other one is called Damper Dudes. They're both in California. You send them your balancer. They take it all apart, clean it, and they have special jigs, and they inject new silicone rubber into them, and they're just like new. But for now, we're good to go with this one. What we got to do next is once our gasket is dry, we have to glue it to the front of the block here. And then when we put the cover on, this is the front neoprene seal of the oil pan. Theoretically, the proper way to do this job is to pull the oil pan down and reseal it at the same time. But, well, you can see, obviously, we're not going to do that. We're going to try it this way. If it doesn't work out, I've got a brand new oil pan gasket set. I'll pull it down and do it. It's not that big a deal. But for now, we're going to go with this. So to get this timing cover on, it's got to kind of go in like this from the front. You've got to get these little tabs. These are the tabs, the locating tabs for this guy. At this point, it's so glued onto the oil pan, I could probably just cut those off and not even worry about them. But because, you know, we like to try and make it look right, we're going to try and fish them through. Then we've got to get the timing cover squashed down onto this and engaged on these dowels all at the same time. It's going to be fun, but I think we can do it. Okay, the last thing before we put her on, we're just going to put a little bit of motor oil on our new chain here. I don't want to soak it. I don't want it dripping all over my gasket that I'm trying to glue on, but just a little bit. That'll get it going. There we go. There's where it was curved up there behind the water pump. It looks okay. Now we're going to have a stab at getting that timing cover on. I'll do that off camera because there may be cuss words involved. Alrighty, got it on. In the end, I decided it was probably smarter. I cut the little locating pins off. That was probably going to be a little too much to try and get them all in. But that's no problem. The front seal is glued pretty good to the front of the pan, and the bolts I threw it to hold it. It's all good. We made sure to put some sealant on this bolt because it goes into the water jacket. We found that out when we took it out, remember? And then the whole bunch of them torqued to 200 inch-pounds. These ones, I do these ones, the corners, the bottom corners first because they're right beside the dowels. And that gets the cover down and centered properly so that when we put the balancer in, it stays concentric with the seal. That's very important. So anyway, yeah, we're in good shape now. We can go ahead. The balancer and the pulleys, I got to clean them up and give them a squirt of paint, and then we can put them on. Alrighty, we can put our balancer on now. I checked the back of it, made sure there's no groove from the old seal. It's all good. So we just put a little grease on the snout of the crank, a little grease on the bore, and we also greased that outside of the balancer sleeve where it's going to go and engage the seal. And now I'll just grab a piece of brass and knock it home. They're not too hard to knock on. An interesting note, the old slanting cars, a lot of them didn't even have a bolt in the center. That's something interesting, but I ran into that many times. Yeah, the hole is threaded. You can put a bolt in. It uses the same bolt as a 318. But lots of them never had a bolt. They just relied on the balancer being smashed on. Unbelievable. Alrighty, there we are. The balancer is home. Now we can put the bolt in, and it gets torqued to 135 foot-pounds. And before we put it in, we're going to put a little Permatex number 2 on the back side of this. And then we'll put a little Permatex 2 on the back side of the washer. So any oil that happens to wick up through the keyway doesn't come out. It'll eventually work its way out of there and go flinging all over under your hood and make a big mess. We don't want that. Here's the belts and the fan installed. And these new nice Gates belts are not stretchy belts like the ones we took off. That's good. Got them adjusted up nicely. Got the fan tightened. We put new bolts and new washers on the fan. I installed some riv nuts here for the radiator. So now we can we'll sit the shroud in, push it back, and drop the radiator in. And we got some proper radiator bolts today. They're just normal bolts, but they've got great big washers on them. So we can get that put together. What we did now, and something I've been meaning to do for quite some time, now that we've switched it up to the 81 and up style 26-inch rad and shroud and everything, I've done away with the overflow tank that sits here, mostly because it was all yellow and tarnished and gross. I tried cleaning it. There was no way in heck it was going to clean. And that was the tank for the 78 and down radiator, the large tank one. It didn't really fit this radiator properly. There is a tank. It's 2 years only, 1979 and 1980, but they are impossible to find. That goes with the old rad support. It was kind of a crossover time when they used these rads with the old rad support. But I can't find one anywhere, and even if I did, it would be $250 American for an NOS one. No. So what we've done, we've gone to the, we've just updated to the rest of the 81 up cooling system. So the overflow tank goes here instead of the washer bottle. We'll get to that in a minute. And this baffle, this plastic or rubber baffle, fills the void where the tank used to be. So it's all factory stuff. It goes in there. It looks just fine. I just had to drill a couple of holes to get the clippy things all sorted out. But it's good now. So once you use this, the washer bottle gets relocated from here to over here on the apron. You can see it sits right above here. We'll get it installed in a minute. So in order to do that, we need to change up to the 81 up inner fenders. I've got a pair. They're really, really nice. I don't want to put them in right now. At some point, I want to kind of detail out this engine compartment a bit. So, I mean, these things and this stuff should all be body color, right? So we will eventually get that done. There's our new one. These ones are from a 92 or 93 truck. But they'll go right into this one. But for now, we have to adapt the 81 and up frame seals to our 80 down inner fenders. It's just a matter of drilling a few holes in them. I do have a pair of reproduction brand new frame seals that will go with the new inner fenders when we put them in. But for now, here's a pair of good used ones that we've gotten installed. So we'll work with those for now. It had a pair of these apron seals in here that Deb's dad had made out of some stuff, some material that we had laying around. I've used some of it for other stuff too. But when I was doing the the control arms and the ball joints and stuff, I found out that that stuff is very flammable. So it came out. I don't want it in here. It burned way too easy. And there's where the washer jug goes. All I had to do to get it fit was I just had to shorten one heater hose up a bit to get the heater hoses kind of back over that way a bit, and it's all good. So now we can go ahead, get all our fluids in, and get the engine cranked up and see if our windshield washers work. Well, I got everything filled up and nothing's leaking on the floor. So what we're going to do now, I want to start it up and just run it for a second because we had the front of it open, a little bit of antifreeze got it. I want to just get all the oil circulated and flushed around so everything gets down to the bottom, and then we're going to give it an oil change before we do anything else. All right, so far so good. Oh, we got to try the windshield washers because there were two unmarked terminals on the bottom of that pump, and I don't know if it's polarity sensitive or not. Well, it doesn't seem to work, does it? Okay, first thing we'll do is switch the terminals around. It could just be a DOA pump too. Well, I switched the wires around on the pump. Let's see what happens now. Oh. Well, we just blew the fuse for the wipers. That's interesting. Oh, no, there we go. That was interesting. I think they're on a... Are they on a breaker? That's weird, eh? Alright, well, we'll work on that. So let's see what happened. We swapped in a good used pump. Hey, would you look at that? All right, so that's that all fixed. And the wipers even park. Man, I got to invest in some lighting. All right. I guess that's a wrap for this one. It's all done. So we changed the timing chain and upgraded or updated this a better word, our cooling system to the 80s style stuff. It does still need an oil change, but in the next video, we're going to go over all the final details before we take it in to get its safety inspection. And I'm just going to give it a complete service at that point. So it'll get an oil filter, a full grease job. We'll check everything one last time, and then it'll be ready to go. And then after that, the next time you see it, it should have proper plates on it and be legally good for the road. I can't wait. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning into our channel. I hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.